Having eluded their pursuers, the Sioux drew the ponies to an easy canter and continued toward the north. They heard the Pawnees signaling far away across the plain. They were still searching for the Cheyennes. The Sioux wondered how the latter had escaped, and which way they had gone. "It is mysterious," declared White Otter. "I do not know how they got away, but I believe they are ahead of us," said Sunbird. "The Pawnees found the buffaloes and chased them off. The Cheyennes know about it. I do not believe they will stay in this place. I believe they will go to their people." "Well, we must keep going ahead," said White Otter. "When it gets light the Pawnees will begin to look around. If we stay here they will find us. We did not find the Cheyennes, but we must go away. It is bad." They continued to ride until the night was half gone, and then they stopped beside a little stream to rest the ponies. They believed that the Pawnees were far behind them, but they determined to take precautions. They took turns at watching until daylight. Then they looked anxiously across the plain for signs of their foes. They were nowhere in sight. "It is good," declared Sunbird. "Now we will go to the Cheyenne camp. Perhaps we will find our brothers there." White Otter kept silent. He was troubled and depressed. His mind was filled with thoughts of Red Dog and his gallant little company. Having failed to bring the hunters to their assistance, White Otter had grave fears for their safety. "Come, eat some of this meat, and then we will ride away," he told his companions. While the ponies grazed, the Sioux ate heartily of the dried elk meat which Red Dog had given them. As they sat beside the stream they continued to watch the plain. They were about to ride away when White Otter discovered something moving along the top of a hill to the westward. "Watch sharp, there is something over there," he said, suspiciously. It was some moments before his companions discovered the distant object. Then they saw it moving slowly down the side of the ridge. They tried to identify it. "It looks like Ma-ya-shush, the wolf," said Sunbird. "Perhaps it is a scout," suggested Little Raven. "I believe it is Ma-ya-shush," White Otter told them. "See, it is moving down that hill. It does not see us. If it was a scout he would know about us. Then he would hide behind that hill and watch. I believe it is Ma-ya-shush." "Yes, I believe it is Ma-ya-shush," said Sunbird. "Now we know that there is no one over there. If the Pawnees were over there Ma-ya-shush would not show himself." "It is true," replied White Otter, convinced that the object moving along the ridge really was a prairie wolf. They mounted the ponies and continued into the north. Hopeful that the Cheyenne hunters had preceded them, they determined to separate to search for the trail. Sunbird rode farther to the westward, and Little Raven circled toward the east. As the plain was level, it was easy to keep within sight of one another. The day was well advanced when White Otter saw Sunbird riding in a circle. It was the danger signal, and White Otter immediately stopped. Then he, too, rode in a circle to warn Little Raven. When the latter saw him, White Otter galloped his pony toward Sunbird. Little Raven also rode toward the west. "What did you see?" White Otter inquired, anxiously, as he approached the Minneconjou. "Here are fresh pony tracks," Sunbird told him. The trail had come from the westward, and turned abruptly toward the north. It showed the hoof marks of many ponies. For some moments they studied it in silence. "It must be the Cheyennes," Sunbird said, finally. "Yes, I believe those are the marks of the Cheyenne ponies," replied White Otter. "What is it?" inquired Little Raven, who joined him at that moment. Here are the marks of some ponies, White Otter told him. I believe it is the trail of our brothers, the Cheyennes, said Little Raven. We are not sure about it, White Otter told him. Perhaps it is the Pawnees. Perhaps they passed by us when it was dark. Perhaps they circled over here and went ahead to catch the Cheyennes. We must not let them fool us again. We will watch out. You are a good leader, declared Sunbird. I see that what you say may be true. Yes, we will be cautious. They rode rapidly along the trail. It was plain and easy to follow. They had not gone far, however, when they saw something which brought them to a sudden stop. A riderless pony had appeared on a knoll directly ahead of them. They watched suspiciously. At sight of them, the pony raised its head and whinnied. Then it began to feed. It moved in an awkward and unnatural manner that aroused their fears. I believe someone is hiding behind that pony, declared White Otter. If he is a scout, why did he go up on that high place? Little Raven asked, curiously. If he kept hiding, we would not know about him. Perhaps he was coming down that hill before we saw him, said White Otter. Then he saw us and hid behind his pony. Now he is trying to lead it over the top of that hill. Yes, I believe that is what he is trying to do, declared Sunbird. The pony was still feeding, and moving slowly toward the top of the hill. They felt sure that it was guided by someone behind it. It was far beyond arrow range. As they were in no danger, the Sioux waited to watch it. Perhaps it is a Cheyenne, said Sunbird. Come, White Otter, make the signal. At that moment a warrior sprang upon the pony, and disappeared over the top of the hill. The Sioux had been unable to identify him. His appearance, however, caused them considerable anxiety. They realized that if he was a Cheyenne, he had probably mistaken him for foes. In that event he would warn his companions, and they might race away before the Sioux could get in touch with them. If he was a Pawnee, the possibilities were more alarming. It is bad, said Sunbird. If we go ahead, perhaps we will run into the Pawnees. If we hold back, perhaps our brothers, the Cheyennes, will ride away from us. We will go ahead, said White Otter. They approached the hill with great care. They watched closely before they ventured up the slope. When they reached the top, they saw a large company of horsemen, far away across the plain. They appeared to be watching the hill. The Sioux believed the scout had warned them. Come, make the signal, said Sunbird. We will see what comes of it. Yes, make the signal, urged Little Raven. I believe they are Cheyennes. White Otter raised his hands high above his head. It was the sign for peace. He repeated the signal several times. Then he rode his pony part way down the hill, and returned to the top. In the meantime, Sunbird had waved his robe up and down, and then spread it upon the ground. He, too, repeated the signal. It was an invitation to come and talk. Having thus proclaimed their peaceful intentions, and invited the strangers to meet them, the Sioux watched for an answer to the signals. The horsemen made no reply. They are cautious, said Sunbird. Perhaps they take us for Pawnees. Perhaps it is the Pawnees after all, declared Little Raven. Well, they are far away, they cannot catch us, White Otter told them. We will go toward them. Then we will see what they propose to do. They rode a bowshot across the plain. Then they stopped and repeated the signals. In a few moments a rider separated from his companions, and replied to the signs. He raised his hands above his head. Then he suddenly swept his right hand toward the ground. It, too, was an invitation to approach and talk. "They are trying to draw us over there," said Sunbird. "No, we are not so foolish. We will wait until we see who they are. It is the only thing to do," agreed White Otter. Having previously mistaken the Pawnees for the Cheyennes, the Sioux determined to be careful. Sunbird dismounted and again signaled with his robe. Then they waited. Many moments passed before they received an answer. Then 3 riders started slowly across the plain. "It is too many. Watch out," cautioned White Otter. "Come. We will tell them what to do. Follow me." The Sioux rode forward abreast. When they had gone a short distance, they turned and rode back. Then White Otter rode forward alone. The signal was meant to warn the approaching horsemen that one only must come to the council. The strangers, however, ignored the suggestion. All 3 continued toward the Sioux. White Otter turned and cantered toward his friends. "Come," he said. "I believe those people are trying to fool us." They rode back toward the hill. Their action made it plain that they mistrusted the intentions of the strangers. The latter seemed to understand. They had stopped, and were holding their hands above their heads to proclaim their peaceful intentions. The Sioux continued toward the hill. Then 2 of the horsemen turned about, and cantered toward their companions. The 3rd rider still waited with his hands raised. "It is good," cried White Otter. "I will go and find out who he is." "Be cautious," Sunbird warned him. "I will watch out," declared White Otter. He turned his pony, and rode toward the stranger. The latter immediately lowered his arms. Sunbird and Little Raven watched anxiously. White Otter advanced with great caution. He was making every effort to identify the horsemen before he came within arrow range. Neither of them had drawn their weapons. To have approached weapons in hand would have been evidence of suspicion and lack of faith. When they finally came within bow range, they stopped and examined each other with close attention. Then White Otter suddenly recognized a friend. "Ho, Running Crow, now I see who you are," he cried, eagerly. Hi, it is my brother, White Otter," shouted the Cheyenne. A moment afterward they met and clasped hands. The Cheyenne was a noted warrior and scout with whom White Otter had shared several perilous adventures. Aware that White Otter had found a friend, Sunbird and Little Raven immediately rode forward to join them. "Ho, my brothers," Running Crow cried cordially. "I see that one of you is Sunbird. I do not know about that other warrior." "He is my brother," Little Raven said. "Sunbird, Little Raven is a great warrior. My brothers, how do you come to be in this place?" Running Crow inquired, anxiously. "Red Dog sent us to find you," White Otter said, soberly. "Has something bad happened to our people?" Running Crow asked quickly. "The Kiowas were all around the camp," said White Otter. "It was a great war party. I believe your people are in much danger." The Cheyenne remained silent. For some moments he stared wildly into the eyes of the Ogallala. The Sioux watched him with pity. They knew that he was striving to master his grief before he spoke. "When did you leave my people?" he asked. "Finally. 2 suns have passed since we came away from your village," White Otter told him. It is bad, Running Crow declared gloomily. "Come. We will go and tell my brothers about it." "Who is the leader?" inquired Sunbird, as they rode toward the Cheyennes. I am the leader, said Running Crow. The Sioux found many old friends and allies among the Cheyennes. There was Red Crane, and Turns Around, and Black Beaver, and Sitting Bear and Fighting Wolf, and several more. Some were unable to speak the Dakota dialect, but they clasped hands with the young scouts and made it plain that they were glad to see them. Then Running Crow addressed his warriors. My brothers, I have bad words, he said. There is little time to talk. Listen sharp. These brave Dakotas came here to find us. Red Dog sent them. The Kiowas were all around our village. They say it was a great war party. 2 suns have passed since the Dakotas came away. I do not know what has happened to our people. Perhaps the Kiowas have killed them. Come, my brothers, we must ride fast to the camp.